my name is Dave Reske, CEO of Nowspeed Marketing, and welcome to this edition of In the Now, where we talk about uncovering the myths and misunderstandings of marketing and leadership with some of the world's most interesting people. And my guest today is Hanoz Tabak, a fractional CMO based in Toronto. He's worked on companies as diverse as Sun Life, Invesco, and Microsoft, and has deep experience with international campaigns and digital marketing, a wealth of experience to share. Hanoz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Really appreciate you being here. And, before the show, you and I were talking about AI and some of the impacts that it's going to have on marketing. And I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion and, hearing some of your experience on that. And the provocative quote that you and I were talking about was, it's attributed to Sam Altman. And it says that the AI will handle 95% of marketing work done by agencies and creatives eventually. Do you think that's true or not true?
So I am going to go against the grain, and once again, thank you for having me on the podcast. I feel personally, and through my experiences and through my discussions with various colleagues and different senior leaders in marketing in Canada, US, and elsewhere, that AI is going to change how marketing is done, but will it completely replace 95% of all jobs by agencies and creatives? I would have to say no. And this is where, I think years ago, and I'm dating myself, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, everyone talked about the internet and how it was going to replace everything. It definitely changed things, and we had to adjust as marketers. We went away from the print, your traditional marketing, towards more your digital marketing, and that's where my background lies in. But for me personally, I think it's going to be another transformational change. Now it's going to happen pretty quickly, so we're going to have to, put on our seatbelt and just as soon as we can. But that's kind of what my feeling. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. Let's take a step back, maybe to the 90s and the 2000s, when people made those kind of wild predictions. Because I was there at the same time, and everybody was saying, well, basically, it's going to replace print, it's going to replace radio, it's going to replace, television advertising. Why would anybody do billboards anymore when you can have the internet? And it didn't quite work out that way, right? So future predictions of technology change don't always end up happening the way we think it's going to happen.
No, you're totally right. I know, like some research papers done by agencies like Neil Patel, so NP Digital, and so other agencies as well have, said already when they do surveys, 50% of marketers are already using AIs, and about 49% of people are pretty worried about their jobs, which is totally understandable. I think we all are. If you're not worried, I don't think you're reading the paper or reading the news online. So I think that's where the opportunity lies, is how are we going to transform, leverage a tool to do ethical marketing as well, not just, more programmatic advertising that doesn't drive results, but really how do we really engage? So I think that's kind of the great opportunity, where how can you use AI in the right way to meet your customers' needs, but also to help you as a marketer as well.
Well, let's talk about the core functions of where AI is really making a difference now, and either helping people be more productive, or even in some cases, maybe taking over some of the work that people were doing. So what essential good uses of AI are you seeing out there?
Sure. So I think for me, when I talk to marketers, or my experience as well, when I talk to clients, or when I get a job opportunity to talk to, people in other industries as well, one of the opportunities for AI is, how do you simplify or remove some of your administrative tasks? So I'm going to date myself, but for those who do UTM codes, right? How do you make it simple where you don't have to hire a coordinator to spend half a day creating 100 UTM links? You can automate those type of things as well. AI provides that tool where maybe people don't come from a tagging background, can still do it as well. So I think that's, from my perspective, kind of the first opportunity really to drive that experience is, how do you do things where you can get people back to lunch? The old expression goes, right? So it's, I think that's the first opportunity. Secondly is, how do you take all the different data and start getting insights that drive really tangible value for the business? And AI does rapidly help that drive that experience. So for example, let's say you're running campaigns on social media like TikTok, Reddit, Facebook, LinkedIn. You're also running paid search. You're doing your email advertising. These are a lot of different data sources that tell you different things. But what I've noticed from my experiences and talking to folks as well, is folks are really using AI to take all this different data and to simplify it. What are the trends? What does it mean when the CPC on Facebook is X and the CPV on, sorry, cost per view on Twitter, I'm sorry, TikTok is Y? It's really drawing those connections as well. So what I'm finding is that, AI is really helping. Now, is it perfect? No. I think, Google put a paper out based on Gemini saying right now results are about 62% of accuracy. So you still need to verify the data. It's not just, hey, you hand it to AI and you take the rest of the day off. That's not what I'm saying is there is an opportunity to take all this different data, understand historical trends, really empower folks. So it's not just you have a few data scientists at your organization, but your organization understanding and empowering with that data and leveraging AI to use it.
So let's just dig into that example a little bit more. So it might be doing more of the work of a data scientist, taking disparate data sources and looking for trends and looking for insight. But can it actually create insights that are going to be useful and know what to do with it from there? So let's say you come up with a trend that says, oh, these ads aren't working as well as those ads, and the ads that mention this topic are not doing as well as these ads. Would it know what to do with it from there, or do you think it will be able to give those kind of recommendations, kind of the insights? Insight is one thing. The idea of where to go from here is another thing.
Sure. So I think to answer that question, I'm going to use the word not yet, right? So I do know there are some agencies that are doing an excellent job, and I don't want to make this a product placement, so I won't mention any
Yep.
names, but they're doing a great job of really leveraging AI to get those insights. Now, is this something where I would say 100% of companies or agencies using it? No, I think you're still in the 10 to 15% where the folks who are doing it well are differentiating their brand in the marketplace where you want to work with that partner or that agency. I think right now we're still at the stage where, when I talk to CMOs, there's a lot of hesitation on AI, as there should be, right? Is it accurate? Is it doing what we need to do? To your point, is it actually giving me the right insights? So right now we're still learning, and also one thing to remember about AI is it's the inputs that generate the outputs, right? So I think we all have seen, what they call prompt engineering now jobs pop up, right? Or, skills. So the importance of that is you got to think of AI as, a young teenager, right? So you still have to teach it on how it can grow. It's got a lot of great ideas. Once it knows what it's doing, it can definitely scale up. But I think we're still at this stage where we're still, all of us, learning how to best put the inputs. How do we sure we verify the outputs? So to answer your question, some folks have maximized it, but I don't think it's generally for a marketing trend that we've been maximizing it so far.
Yeah. So the way I've been thinking about it often is almost as a brilliant research assistant, someone who maybe not a high school student, but like I also think of it like a brilliant graduate student who can get data, who can do the analysis, who can kind of give you the results, but they don't know what it means, and they still need an expert, a marketer, to interpret that and think strategically and creatively. And I think that one of the interesting things that I believe is going to happen is that marketers will need to basically start thinking more strategically and use the opportunity to kind of think about trends and ideas that humans do really well. And some of these lower level tasks may be automated. Although I haven't seen that yet happen. So maybe I'm missing something. So I think the promise of automating all these tasks is interesting. I just haven't seen it quite happen. I don't know. Are you seeing some basic tasks that are being
So
automated that are helpful?
So I am seeing some tasks, primarily in kind of the digital marketing world. So
Mhm.
from everything from your setting up your campaigns to your automations, like connecting APIs between like a Tableau with a Facebook API integration. So, but to your point though, it's not mainstream right now. There are pockets where folks are using it for specific tasks, but we still haven't put together the full story whereby, you have this product or solution and it's end to end. I think right now we're also at the stage where, similar to how iPhones were in 2008, where people had, BlackBerry, iPhone. So you kind of have now Google, Microsoft, the big players, but a lot of small players are coming about. And now the question is, will they grow and be their own large AI company, or will someone buy them out? So I think that's where we're still learning a lot about how to do this right, how to do it well, and how to do it efficiently.
Yeah. So we primarily focused on some of the larger tools like ChatGPT and Gemini. Are you seeing other AI tools come about for marketers that people should be starting to think about, or should we really be focused on the majors right now?
So what I'm finding is a lot of the tools for in terms of AI, there's a lot. I mean, every month I read a blog about the next 10, a new 10 list of AI tools, right? So everything from how do you do creative to how do you do optimizations. I think everyone's got a long preference of tools right now. I think sometimes it's a bit overwhelming because you don't like, where is the right tool to use, whereby I don't have to spend, $100 on 10 different tools to get what I want. So I think we're still in the stage where we're learning. I'm finding a lot of great experiences talking to folks with different AI tools. Like I know, for example, not marketing related, but there is an AI tool called Cost Cutter AI, whereby what it does, it partners with, it's specifically for direct to consumer, and it helps you reduce your cell phone internet costs. So
Hmm.
what it is, it's AI calling Rogers, Bell, all the different publications to help you reduce your costs, right? So I think what happens here, not only in the marketing world, but just for all of us, is if the AI tool really drives value, people would engage with it. If it solves a problem, people are going to engage. So I think that's where, to use the cost cutter example, and a non-paid placement for them, but all jokes aside, that's where people are really looking for AI is, look, it's a buzzword. Great, AI is what everyone's talking about, but in the end is how is it going to solve my issues, challenges, or problems, or make me a better marketer?
Yep.
And that's what people are looking for.
One of the areas we've been using it in quite a bit is in content marketing. And one of my beliefs in content marketing is that most companies, we'll talk about maybe small to mid-sized B2B companies, a lot of the folks that we work with, they have they don't have enough content. They because it was really expensive to create content, white papers, videos, blog content, before tools like ChatGPT. It was expensive, and so you didn't really have all the content for all buyer types across the entire buyer's journey for all your products, let's say, in all formats. So that's a tremendous amount of content lift for most companies. And so are you seeing people get more productive in producing more content, what the market wants to really satisfy the needs? Let's say I built this three-dimensional grid of content requirement. Or do you see just companies just kind of throwing more blogs against the wall in the hopes that something will happen? Are they still thinking strategically about leveraging this content production engine, or are we just kind of like putting stuff out there?
I think it's a little of column A and a little bit of column B, right? So I think that's where some organizations do content extremely well, right? So, but they have built the foundation, right? And then they're using AI to rapidly grow it to the next level, right? So I think that's where, like, let's be honest, there's a little bit of hesitation on AI and the content, right? You've got your deep fakes, you've got obviously the political situation in multiple parts of the world where people are concerned about, are you going to get the right information? So I think we still also are figuring out, especially from a content perspective, how to do it responsibly, whereby we're engaging with folks where, for example, when you see a blog, if it's written by AI, should it say written by AI? This is the creditor. So I think it's still, there's a lot of hesitation around it. So I'll be honest, I understand why people are not just jumping into the deep end of content. Some companies are, and kudos for them for jumping in, but I don't know if we figured out all the regulations around it as well, whereby we can maximize the experience instead of just, because I've seen a lot of fake content where you're just like, oh, this is really interesting, but I'm like, oh, wait, it is actually not real at all.
Yeah, it's not only real, it's maybe it's not relevant, it doesn't fit.
Fair enough.
And I think that the opportunity, it feels like, if you're, to use your word, a content foundation, if you have that content foundation, maybe you have a vision for, you've got these products and you've got a deep understanding of the buyer's needs across the buyer's journey, and you like to provide content on all thought leadership topics, on all features, on all benefits, in all formats. That's just a massive amount of content we're talking about, right? You need a blog article on this key feature for this product for this audience in the Middle East in their language. It's a lot of content if you really want to meet the needs of all your buyers, with content, right? And so I think there is a big opportunity for AI, and that's one of my I guess my biases. And I want to ask you how you feel about this. Is in the marketing world, there's always a need for more, right? So will it replace jobs? My feeling is not so much. I think it's going to just enable us to do so much more, and that more is always required. How do you feel about that view of the world?
So I mean, I understand where you're coming from, right? Because I think, I've worked at organizations, I've worked with agencies and partners where, you know, you're judged on the amount of content or the amount of work that's put out. And sometimes, we forget about the role of quality,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's where, there's always a balance, right? You do want to have from a content perspective, it always looks good if you created 10 blogs compared to 2 blogs. Now, if those 2 blogs have got better engagement, better SEO, and all the foundations behind it, those 2 blogs probably in the long run will do a better job. So I think we're always in that dilemma of how we judge, and I think that's something where, let's be honest, in the corporate world, we've been dealing for years, right? So, I know I've managed campaigns in multiple organizations, and it was how many digital campaigns did you get to market this week, right? Not what was the engagement, right? So it's one of those things where we're always in a bit of that challenge of quantity and quality. And I think that's where, what I, love to see is when marketing leaders have those conversations with their organizations, their partners, or the agencies, and saying, hey, how do we do this effectively instead of just, well, this is the way we've always done it, which is not it's a hard change, especially for larger organizations.
Yeah, and it seems like it's got to start with the needs of the buyer, right? So we need to understand, the buyer's journey, what content would be helpful to them to move through that process, to make decisions, to understand the features, understand the benefits, and really start with that foundational content strategy, and then put together a plan. And then you can use the tools to help get there or not, right? And then there's a lot of tools that can make a difference. How do you see, one of the exciting things I've thought about is video production with AI. Have you seen any of these the tools that promise effortless video production? Basically, we create a 1-minute script and then it just produces the whole thing for you. Do you think that's going to take over from human produced
Yeah.
video?
No, it's a great question. Now, my background has not been in video production, I'll be
Mm.
honest. So I'm more on I would say the edges where like someone sends me the tool. I'm like, hey, can this help me create another video for LinkedIn? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of, very basic when it comes to video production. What I've heard and I've talked to folks is there's a lot of opportunities. Now, which one? I haven't used the right tools, I'll be honest. I've struggled with it. So it's understanding what are the tools. So love to get your thoughts. Is there one where you're like, ooh, this is kind of helping your organization or your clients meet their needs?
So not it from end to end, but there are productivity tools that help us take a video like this, cut it up, put it together, the text snippets around it, take the audio, produce a blog, all of those other tools kind of helping us create derivative content. So the idea of kind of creating core content and then using AI to create derivative content makes it easier. But the result is I don't know whether we're spending less time, we're just creating a lot more content. So is that the right way to go? Should we just create less quality or more quality, less quantity? It's the age old question, right? That you were starting to go with. Yeah.
And I think in the end, to your point, I think you did make an excellent point of what is the role of the buyer in the
Hmm.
journey, right? So because we're viewing it from how much content we produce. Now, is a buyer viewing all your content? That would be amazing. I just don't think that's the case. So that's where you have to understand, are you getting folks at the right time and place? Right. So for example, right, like if you created 5 blogs, but because the way you're timing them, they will only look at one, but having the other 4 blogs also is building credibility as well. So, I think that's where, going back to your point, in the end, it's understanding the buyer. What do they need? If it's B2B, B2C, D2C, or any other acronym I've missed along the way. It's really understanding what do you need to provide to them, and is it the right time and place? Because maybe you have a blog where it might not be the most popular blog, but if it's a B2B blog on asset management and it's talking about the wealth industry and interest rates, for that person at that time, that's extremely valuable and that closes the deal.
Yeah. And that's really what you've got to have. So, see, also seems like with the explosion of content, because it's naturally less expensive to create content, it seems like we need to, as marketers, move in maybe two different directions at the same time. One is maybe a UI, information architecture structure. So to make it easier on websites and other properties to access that content. And I'm not sure I've seen that yet, but I think that, marketers, if you've got a website and you've got 2,000 blogs, let's say, last year you had 20 blogs, now you've got 2,000, right? How do you make it easy for people to find that? So I think that, and maybe that's a UI, maybe that's a AI challenge in by itself, but how do you create a UI that makes it easy for humans to find that? Do you think that's going to be, a key issue as we go forward?
So I think just to add on it, so I do think it's going to be, I wouldn't know if it's an issue, but it definitely is going to be a challenge for all of us to handle as marketers. But also, I think what also changes is like, let's, understand how do people find the content? So let's be honest, one of the primary ways to find content is search, right? We all go to Google or Bing or another brand or DuckDuckGo, whatever your preference is in terms of search. But it's how does search evolve with AI? Because you might not get a full page of results. It might only give you the top two results. So does that skew our experience as well and our messaging as well? So I think that's where as marketers also is understanding, how will AI change the approach for us when we develop content? So for example, you go back to your 2,000 blogs, if no one can find those 2,000 blogs, then is it valuable to create it? So I think that's still a discussion where as marketers, we're looking for the experts at Google and Microsoft to really guide us on how is search going to change? Because we're all used to, branded keywords, non-branded keywords, all the buzzwords around search. But once AI comes in, your experience on how you access information and learn about a brand, a product, or service definitely changes.
Yeah. So maybe we will not want as much content, or maybe we'll want more content. I guess it's will AI tell us how much content we should produce, right? So can we ask ChatGPT what is the right content architecture and right content? I'm not sure it's there yet, but that will be an interesting evolution. Will it help us not only with the production and connecting the dots, will it help us with the strategy, to reach this target audience? I've experimented with that a little bit, and I actually teach a class on business planning at Boston College, and it can really kind of give you in business planning, it can give me a generic business plan, but it can't really help you make the hundreds of individual decisions that you need to create a tailored business plan around a specific issue. And so I wonder if the same thing's true of marketing. It can kind of give you all the pieces, but will it help you make those strategic decisions to optimize it for your business to really make a difference in the market?
I think the one thing we must remember about AI also is we know our businesses, right? So it's not we're coming in. I think, you've got folks with many years of expertise, many different experiences. So I don't think AI replaces experiences or knowledge. It should add, improve, or grow it. So I think that's where, to going back to your example, if you give inputs of a generic business plan, you get that same output where it's like, hey, what are the fundamentals of marketing? Give me the 4 Ps or so forth. Where I think where the marketers who are really leveraging AI and expanding on it is saying, okay, now do a deep dive on price in this geography with these requirements. Is there something I haven't considered? Or is there a regression analysis I need to do? I think that's where kind of the opportunity lies is, it doesn't, going back to our very first statement of the 95%, that's where, for the people who are not putting in the effort and putting generic marketing plans, yeah, it might replace you because if you're just doing very generic things, you're not doing something different, where the value is how do you engage and get that, that additional value, which humans can provide, which I don't think AI can provide yet.
Yeah, and I think that's where I personally get challenged with it, because if you're sitting in front of that, 24-year-old brilliant research assistant, and they're able to turn around those assignments right away, it forces you to think strategically and creatively about the questions you could ask in a way that we didn't have to do before. If I could say to you, hey, hey, analyze that target market. I want to sell more I want to expand my business to Chicago. Analyze the target market, come back to me, talk about competitors, the demographics of the market, right? In a week, and we'll talk about it. All right. That gives that's one level of thinking. But if I now can say, well, do that, and you come back to me in 5 seconds. All right, here's the market analysis. Now what? Oh, now I want you to go deeper. I want you to go deeper. I want you to go deeper. And it forces us as marketers to kind of think at a faster, deeper level than we used to. And that's challenging. We were used to this whole pace. I think it's going to accelerate the time. Is that how, are you seeing something similar?
I think you kind of nailed it on the head. And I think the one thing we got to remember, change is not easy, right? We've gone through so much changes over the last couple of years, right? I mean, I think my heart goes out to folks. I mean, with the pandemic and, it feels right now, I think as I talk to a lot of people, things are constantly changing, sometimes too much for folks. So I think that's where we kind of have to embrace the situation, what it is. How can we leverage AI? And to your point is, it's not going to solve everything overnight. If it did, then it would have already had. The question now becomes is how does it leverage us to be better human beings, give us more time to think strategy, really give us the space to think outside the box to solve problems as marketer and then more global problems and so forth. So I think that's where my mind goes, as the half glass full view, depending on the view of other people. But I do think there's a large opportunity, and I've seen that with everything from, working with agencies where they've been able to do regression analysis more effectively and more efficiently for their clients, or exploring trends what they weren't able to find, or optimizing their digital marketing campaigns. So I've seen that opportunity, and I'm from a half glass full. I do think if we use it correctly and we empower ourselves and we educate ourselves, we're able to help. AI can help us not replace our jobs, but do our jobs better.
Yeah, and that's really the next step is do our jobs better, whether it's creating content, better analysis, better targeting, better campaigns, make all these things more effective. Well, Hanoz, this has been a fantastic conversation. This is a challenging topic, and you're right, it's changing all the time, and we're all learning. So thank you for taking the time to explore this with me.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. If you want to get in touch with you and learn more about you or your services or how to work with you, what's the best way to do that?
So I think the most easiest way is to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So, I think the LinkedIn is something that everyone has right now, especially the business professionals. So shout out to them for doing such a great job of building the platform. So you can contact me on LinkedIn and we can go from there.
Great. Well, thanks again for taking the time.
You as well. Thank you for your time.